Oh, the year-end season. It's the most wonderful time of year, the most joyous time of year. It's the absolute most chaotic, busiest season of the whole year for everyone that's involved in fundraising. You already have holiday parties and gift giving and shopping. Now add in a tax deadline to actually make your donation before the end of the year, and it is absolute chaos for all of us in fundraising. Is it worth it? What's the purpose? What's the point? What's really at stake? Are nonprofits really participating in a meaningful way? Let's take a look at what the data says, because the data can tell us all we need to know about how to make the most of this most critical time of year. Trivia question for you. How much money, how many donations do you think are given during the last 45 days of the year? That's how we define the year-end season. Every day from November 15th all the way through December 31st, 45 days of year-end fundraising. How much online revenue do you think is at stake? Is it 12%? Is it 26%? Is it 32%? Or is it 38%? If you said 38%, ding, 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 you are a lucky winner. Congratulations, 38% of online revenue for the entire year comes in during the year-end season, during a 45-day window. That's a lot of donations. That's a lot of revenue.
That's a lot of nuts!
Some organizations, there's variance. Not everyone sees all this money coming in all at the same time. Some see more in the 20% range, but some see upwards of 50% plus of their annual budget coming in during 45 days. The truth here is this: there is so much revenue at stake during the year-end season. And if you want to see that type of revenue come in for your organization, you have to come to the table with a clear and cohesive plan to communicate with your donors. Let's take a look at what some of the data says about how nonprofits are actually participating, because the reality is not many organizations are participating in an effective way, and lots of organizations are just choosing to opt out entirely. And there is nothing more terrifying, more bone-chilling than an organization not communicating with their donors during year end. The data says that 40% of nonprofits don't send as much as an email to their online donors during the year-end season.
That's bad. That's bad. That's bad. That's bad.
Looking a little bit bigger picture, if we look at direct mail as well, 29% of nonprofits sent no communication whatsoever. No emails, no direct mail.
Sometimes I just don't understand human behavior.
That means there's a tiny little sliver of nonprofits that only send direct mail to their online-only donors, which is an interesting approach. We'll talk a little bit more about multi-channel communication here in just a little bit. But the problem is so many organizations just aren't showing up and communicating with their donors during this most critical giving season of the year. So I had a great conversation with a guy named Kevin Gentry from 10X Strategies. And we were talking all about year-end fundraising, and he had some good thoughts around this same topic, specifically as it relates to Giving Tuesday, and just how many organizations are leaving money on the table around this big giving day.
I've been really skeptical about the concept of Giving Tuesday for a long time, because my strategy and philosophy is you're talking about long-term, lifetime value cultivation, really working with every donor possible to understand exactly what they're trying to achieve and to work toward a long-term relationship to achieve that. And Giving Tuesday just seems so transactional and just the antithesis of that other approach. That said, I've come around because, well, there are a lot of people who actually hold back support. They give on Tuesday. And if you're not in that mix, to your earlier point, you're just going to miss out.
Beyond just Giving Tuesday, we have to look towards the end of the year if we want to get our communication set up in the right priority. There is a lot of revenue that comes in on Giving Tuesday. We see as much as 5% of year-end revenue coming in just on that one day. That's a lot of giving, and we should participate. But if we prioritize that over the end of the year, we're going to miss out on a lot of revenue. We see that on December 31st, that nearly 3 times as much revenue comes in that one day compared to Giving Tuesday. And if you go look at the week leading up to the 31st, so Christmas Eve through December 30th, we have found that nearly 6 times as much revenue comes in during that week alone. So as we're thinking about communication, how do we show up and participate with our donors during the year-end season? We have to focus in on that last week and that last day of the year. Now, we said that year-end and the holiday season is the most chaotic time of the year, and that is so true. It's the most competitive time of the year, not just for nonprofits who are all trying to communicate with donors and win over some share of their wallet during the year-end season, but we are communicating with every other retailer that's out there that's sending emails and running advertising and dropping so much junk in our mailboxes.
TV and radio, and in magazines, and movies, and at ball games, and on buses, and milk cartons, and t-shirts, and bananas, and written on the sky.
We're competing with everyone during this really busy season for the attention of our donors. Now, a primary strategy to get our donors' attention during year end is to use a multi-channel approach. What that means is not just using emails to communicate with an online donor, not just using direct mail to communicate with someone who gives to you through the mail, but using both channels to communicate with both types of donors. Interestingly enough, only 36% of organizations actually used a multi-channel strategy in their communications with donors. We've also seen indicators that those organizations that use a multi-channel strategy tend to have higher donor retention rates. That doesn't mean that a multi-channel approach magically makes your donors want to give to you more often and for a long term, but it's a primary way to make sure that you stand out during this key season of reactivating donors, to get their attention during year end using a multi-channel approach while they're so encumbered with so many other advertising messages, so that your organization can stand out and actually gain their attention.
There's a lot of different channels you can use and leverage for multi-channel fundraising. You can look at leveraging email aligned with direct mail, for example. And that is something that not enough organizations are doing. But a step beyond just email is actually looking at what you could do in Facebook advertising with multi-channel messaging. So the experiment here that I'm showing on screen is from a nonprofit that had a very large direct mail package going. They said, what if we add an additional channel? What if we look at using Facebook and leveraging that to cut through the noise of year-end marketing that's bombarding our donors? So in order to do this test, they split their direct mail recipient list 50-50. So half would get only the email and the direct mail piece as a control. The treatment audience would get those pieces of communication, as well as see ads displayed in their Facebook feeds and Instagram feeds starting 7 days before the mail package hits mailboxes through 7 days after. These ads simply reinforced the message of the direct mail package and called out in the ad copy that they should be on the lookout for a letter from the organization explaining the impact of their gift and the opportunities to invest in the new year. That was it. And fun fact, when you run an ad on Facebook without a link that takes you off Facebook to donate, Facebook doesn't penalize you by increasing your cost per impression because you're keeping users within the platform. And Meta likes that, so you can actually get more ad impressions in a campaign at a better cost effectiveness. So at the end of the campaign, we pulled the results of giving for the donors and control and treatment audiences. And what we found was a valid 36% increase in donor conversion from the direct mail recipients, not on the ads, because again, there's no way they can donate on the ad, just from the gifts they made through the mail or through the emails they were receiving during that period. So from an ROI standpoint, it was a marginal investment for an outsized return.
Thanks so much to Artie for sharing all that great insight with us. Now, the one thing that I want you to take away from today is this. There is so much revenue at stake during this most critical and chaotic giving season of the year. But if we want to see that revenue and those donations come into our organizations, we have to have a clear and comprehensive plan to communicate with our donors, to capture their attention, and to inspire them to give to us during the year-end season.